Good morning, everyone. It's a little later in the day, but still good morning. Anyhow, every once in a while I get into a debate with somebody. I'm calling it a debate to be nice. An argument would be a better term, but I'm trying to be polite. So I keep it civil. I took debate class in school, so I know that you never hit below the waist, as they say. You got to play by Marcus of Queensberry rules in your debate. You have to be truthful and honest and say things that will affect the debate. No calling names. That's kind of how we're to present the Bible. But the people that are questioning the Bible, questioning whether or not we should even be learning about God from the Bible, they say the Bible's not accurate, it's been changed so many times, and there's all kinds of errors in it. When they say that, ask them to point out some. Once you get familiar with where the, quote, errors are, they're minor. A verse was duplicated at some point. Somebody forgot and put a duplicate verse. They removed it. One of the biggest ones that they like to throw at us, some of these guys and they can be women too, that are atheists and they're trying to justify their existence without God, look for anything that they can point out that shows the fallibility of our religion. And they listen and listen until they hear somebody say something, and they go, that's a good argument, I'm going to adopt that. Do they read the Bible? Do they research it? No. They just hear something that they can use as ammunition, and that's all they want. But a good Bible scholar can put them down pretty quickly. And one of the biggest ones are the two genealogies that are in the Bible, in the New Testament. It was prophesied that Jesus was a descendant of David, so he had to satisfy that. But there are two genealogies, one's in Matthew, one's in Luke, and they're different. Why? How can you have two different genealogies? Well, you have two parents. So, in looking at the arguments that they have when they're trying to find problems, they will hear a snippet and come to you. So this is the rebuttal for this particular one. There are others. The word rapture is not in the Bible. Well, it is, but it's in the Latin Bible, and most people don't read it. There's plenty to go around. I'm looking at my teleprompter next to me to make sure I cover everything. And God likes to kind of poke the religious leaders. We got to see that when Jesus was walking around. Whitewashed tombs, he called them. He was poking them. He knew that they weren't true followers of God. They were in it for themselves, and he pointed that out. He flipped the money table changers because he knew they were just in it for the money, not for God. So, there are the two genealogies. I'm not going to read every name, so don't switch off. And if I do read every name, I'm not going to go into every name. I'm probably going to butcher half of them anyway. These are names that we don't say all the time. So, to back up my statement that he came here to fulfill the law, Matthew 5:17. Do not think that I've come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have not come to abolish, but to fulfill them. So all the Old Testament prophetic scriptures that are copied into the New Testament point to Jesus. But they all came from the Old Testament. When the wise guys showed up, wise men, but I call them wise guys, showed up to give Jesus his family gifts, he was about 2 years old. He wasn't there at the birth. The wise guys weren't there at the birth. But when they came there, he was about 2 years old, because Herod ordered babies 2 years old and older and younger to be killed. Got distracted with that bird. Okay. And just to give you some examples, John 7:42, does not the scripture say that the Messiah will come from David's descendants and from Bethlehem, the town where David lived? Beth is house. Bethlehem, house of Abraham. Romans 1:3, regarding his son, who as to his earthly life was a descendant of David. 2 Timothy 2:8, remember Jesus Christ, raised from the dead, descendant from David. Now, if you look at the Matthew account, one is a legal account, one's a biological account. He had to be descendant of David from the proper tribe because he's our high priest. And that had to come from a certain tribe. He didn't start his ministry until he was 30. You can't be a high priest until you're 30. So it's all in there if people just take the time to open their minds and study it instead of looking for ways to prove it wrong. Okay, so he's the legal heir to the throne by coming from David. Matthew 1, the genealogy of Jesus Christ the Messiah is the title. Starting in verse 1, this is the genealogy of Jesus the Messiah, the son of David, the son of Abraham. First off, back then, this is a patriarchal way of looking at things. It was ruled by men. I'm not trying to be sexist or partisan here. I'm telling you history. Women were allowed in the temple, but they had to stay in a different section. They weren't allowed to come down to the floor and ask questions. I'm sure God gets a sore neck from shaking his neck. Anyhow, in verse 2, Abraham the father of Isaac, Isaac the father of Jacob, Jacob the father of Judah and his brothers, Judah the father of Perez and Zerah, whose mother was Tamar. Tamar was a prostitute. There's other prostitutes in this lineage. That's God poking fun at the religious leaders, poking them, knowing that they would be upset with this. Perez the father of Hezron, Hezron the father of Ram, Ram the father of Amminadab. I know it's not how you say it, but that's how I say it. Amminadab. Okay. I like doing my Archie Bunkers with the names sometimes. And the father of Nahshon. Nahshon was the father of Salmon, or Salmon. Salmon was the father of Boaz, whose mother was Rahab, another prostitute. Boaz the father of Obed, whose mother was Ruth, whose husband died. She traveled with her mother-in-law. Ruth was not Jewish, but her mother-in-law was. And there's some question in her life. Obed the father of Jesse, and Jesse the father of King David. David was the father of Solomon. Guess whose mother Solomon was? Bathsheba. David's big sin. It's just fraught with reasons for the religious zealots to just pull their hair out. I'm sure God had fun with this. But this was his legal heritage. He had to be connected all the way back. And we're going to skip over a bunch of these here. There's a bunch of them in here. After the exile of Babylon, then there's other people in here. And so there was the exile part and then after. And we're looking through, and I've got Eleazar, the father of Matan, Matan, the father of Jacob, Jacob, the father of Joseph, the husband of Mary. Mary was the mother of Jesus, who is called the Messiah. So we see this lineage. This is legal, but the other lineage is different there. So it says in here in verse 17, there were 14 generations in all from Abraham to David, 14 from David to the exile in Babylon, and 14 from the exile to the Messiah. Now, what about Luke? Again, this is the biological versus the legal. Think about the difference. One's Mary's, which is biological. We just read Joseph, which is the legal. But he's not really Jesus' father. He essentially adopted him. So he's got the legal lineage through Joseph, the biological through Mary. Now Jesus himself was about 30. I'm in Luke 3:23. Jesus himself was about 30 years old when he began his ministry. He was the son, so it is thought, of Joseph. It's written this way. The son of Heli, the son of Mahat, the son of Levi, the son of... And it goes on and on. This is a cleaner genealogy. And there'd be some names in there that we would recognize. There's a number of Levi's. That was the priestly tribe. And we go on down, Methuselah, son of Enoch. We're not 100% sure on the names. Names were common. I can even look up my full name, Lawrence Fleming or Larry Fleming, and there's multiple ones out there. Which one's which? Well, that's why they would say Yeshua bar Yosef, Jesus the son of Joseph. Okay, so Rahab was, again, a prostitute. She's the one that hid the spies that went to spy out the new area. So you see, there's a reason that they're different. One's Joseph's, one's Mary's. One's legal, to satisfy the legality of him being a high priest. And the other one is just simply biological. To prove that on Mary's side, at least, we can go back to where we need to. And one of them starts at the beginning, Abraham, and works forward. The other one starts with Jesus and works back. In Luke, I skipped all the other stuff in there. The son of Kenan, the son of Enosh, the son of Seth, the son of Adam, the son of God. That's the way it finished. The biological version. So there's a reason why things are the way they are. This wasn't by accident. Luke's the physician. And the Jews were meticulous with two things: making sure the Bible was letter for letter, dot and tittle, perfect every time it was copied. And their genealogies, they were meticulous on that. They had to be right because so much stuff hung on it. And if you had to sell your land for some reason, you needed money, sell your land, in 50 years it would revert back to the family name. The year of Jubilee. So they were very precise in keeping track of who everybody was. Now, we've kind of lost that sort of today because they've been scattered so much. But now we have a way to find out again, and that's through Ancestry.com. You can track lineage. Now, I don't know if you can go, I don't think you can go all the way back to Jesus, but you can certainly go back to prominent Jews for those that want to track their lineage that way. I've done my Ancestry.com, and I can get back to the 1400s in Scotland. I didn't go any further than that. That cost more money. It's a money maker for them, and it's also a database full of everybody's name. That seems somewhat dangerous. But we're already in many, many databases. Just type something into a search engine. Be careful because you're going to get emails on it. If I'm searching for insurance for my car and I'm still looking, I don't like where I'm at. I switched and then immediately went right back because they lied to me. I'm not going to mention names because I don't want to get sued, but it was a prominent insurance company. They gave me a good rate to switch, and then the next month came along, it almost doubled. I'm still paying too much, but I'm looking. You see all these advertisements for $40, $50 insurance. Try to find one. I'm still looking. I live in a potentially high-risk area. So they say. I drive a big engine car, but it's 4-door, so it meets all the requirements for a family car. But they still charge me, and it's an older car, and I'm old, so you can't argue with these guys. And from what I find out, the majority of the money doesn't go to the insurance agency, it goes to the agent. I'm backlight. I'm blocking the reflection with the bottle. I didn't set my other light up. I probably should have. Now, my last video, I went too long. So I'm going to give you a break on this one. How are we doing? So this one would be about 20 minutes. I'll tack on a little bit more. You can see the water going out. You see those trees now? You can see the ground, the mud at this point, underneath the trees. That eventually will dry out as the water keeps receding. It's going to look like it did at the end of the season. There's going to be a big hole out in the middle, and you walk out there on the dry ground, and you cast your line in there, and you're going to catch fish because they're all compacted in. Don't be put off when people say that the Bible is inaccurate. That's a standard dodge. If you're not prepared to defend it, just say, I disagree, and we can talk about this later if you want, but it's been challenged more than any other book. If it was grossly wrong, no church would use it. But it's still being used. There are different translations. They use different words. Sometimes people interpret wording over the ages differently. And there's slang in there. There's humor in there if you read it in the original language. You've only got 3 languages, well, 4. Hebrew, Aramaic, Greek, and eventually Latin being the 4th. That's it. And then it's been translated in every language around the world, literally. So there's no excuse. The message is the same. The wording may be different, but that doesn't make it wrong. If I say the sky is blue, what is the meaning of that? Am I saying the sky is sad? Or that's the color of the sky? You see, just a very simple sentence. You got to put it in context. And there's people that want a reason not to like God and to be able to do their own thing and ignore God. They'll look at anything. Even a very obvious difference. Two genealogies for a reason. And they're both accurate. Both truthful. Different sides of the elephant. We're all seeing the same thing. Be nice to people because their ignorance is going to send them to hell if they don't wake up. Know that. Don't shut the door completely. When you walk away, be nice. Don't call them names. Don't call them stupid, ignorant, all these other bad words. Just thank you. We'll talk again maybe another time. And be so nice to them, they can't stand it. Remember, it's like heaping hot coals on their head. But don't waste your time any longer than you need to, because there's so many people out there that do need the word and are ready to hear it. I pray that you have a great rest of the week. We made it by Tish B'Av. We're still here for the rapture predictors. I told you it's not a Jewish festival. We're in the Gentile age. Next month is my prediction, matching the Revelation 12 sign. 7-year anniversary of the Revelation 12 sign. Now, what's going to happen? Read Revelation 12. Satan comes after the church. How much of that are we going to see? Be interesting. And we also have our election this year. And we know how the people in this country would vote if they had an honest election. If we have a dishonest one, what are the people going to do? I don't encourage violence. But I don't think I need to even encourage people to think about violence, because there's enough of them out there that are mad that they lost the election the last time they lost one that was taken from us. I guarantee you Georgia didn't vote these Democrats in. It's going to be interesting. Cinch up your seatbelt and hold on. It's going to be a rough ride till we meet in the clouds. God bless. Look how far the water's gone out. It's stirred almost to these inner trees. It's still a little muddy. I wouldn't walk out there yet, but that's going to dry out. And then you'll be able to walk all the way out there. The brown parts of the grass that you see is where it was at the edge of the water and it was muddy. It's dried out, so they mowed that. But he's going to get the rest of it. These clumps of green that are there were still too muddy to get to. But pretty soon, the lake's going to be almost empty. So they can fix the dam. Blessings, everyone.